Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Kilmer, Director of Public Programs at the National Building Museum in Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who may not know about us, the National Building Museum inspires curiosity about the world we build for ourselves through groundbreaking exhibitions and programs such as this. Since last year, we've been relying on an online platform to bring you informative, incisive, and intelligent content. Tonight's program is no exception. The museum has been exploring the built environment, those places where we live, work, and play, for nearly 40 years. While most of that focus has been on buildings and landscapes, we've also explored the equally important intersections between art and architecture. We've commissioned site-specific works that allow artists to engage with and be influenced by our magnificent building. You can get a glimpse of that magnificence behind me. This program is an opportunity for you to meet one of those artists, Foon Sham, to learn more about his work, which includes his fantastic maze of knowledge on view in the museum's Great Hall. Foon and local artist Lisa Marie Tallhammer are two of the artists that the museum has engaged for our summer block party, Inside Out. You'll have a chance to learn more about Lisa Marie 2 weeks from tonight in our continuing conversations with talented artists. The museum's summer block party is made possible by our presenting sponsor, AARP, and our gold sponsor, CoStar Group, and we thank them for their support. If you enjoy what you see in this program, please consider becoming a museum member. You will receive early access and discounts to other programs and events, and discounts at our award-winning museum shop. Please visit nbm.org to learn more. And now it's my pleasure to welcome our moderator, Angela Anderson Adams. Angela has worked as a curator and arts administrator in the Washington, D.C. area for over 30 years. Under her leadership, Arlington Public Art has grown from being one of the first developer-sponsored programs in the country to an award-winning public and privately funded civic design-oriented program. Angela, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. And I'm just delighted to be here with one of my dearest, oldest artist friends, Foon Sham. And it was really a delight to be invited, Foon, to participate tonight. So thank you for that. And I will introduce Foon, who was born in Macau. He first arrived in the United States in 1975. He received a BFA from California College of Arts and an MFA from the Virginia Commonwealth University. Foon has taught at the University of Maryland since 1988. He has had 43 solo exhibitions and participated in over 150 group exhibitions throughout the United States, Canada, Norway, Mexico, Australia, Hong Kong, and France. Quite an impressive record. So Foon, I want to get us started. We've known each other a while. Didn't we both arrive at the Arlington Arts Center about the same time? You as a studio artist and me as the exhibitions director curator there? What year was that? Do you remember?
Yes, I was, around 1988 to 1992, and I like to share a screen to show you the building where we met.
Oh, so, my gosh, I remember that.
This is the building where we met, and it was actually my studio. If you see my arrow, is right on the lower right-hand side where my studio residency is. And we have 24-hour access, and I go there to work anytime I want. And also the outdoor lawn became also a place for me to show my work. This is one of the largest sculpture I built at that time, and also is the last metal sculpture I ever built, because since then I did not want to build anything with metal in terms of the material and the touch and the smell of it. So anyway, that was the last piece I installed during the time I met you.
Excellent. Yes, thank you for the refresher. That's That's quite a memory. The Arlington Art Center, of course, thankfully is still going strong.
Yes.
And the space that was once your studio is now a beautiful exhibition space. So they still have studios, of course, upstairs, and that tradition continues as well. So we're really proud to have it here in Arlington. You know, Foon, it's interesting to be reminded that this was a metal work, and you know, for the most part, you gave up working in metal after this project. So, you know, I've been impressed with your dedication to working with the same material, which isn't metal, it's wood.
Right.
Long time. Also, long before it was fashionable, you were using recycled materials. And you know, now we even ask artists specifically in commissions to use sustainable materials. So you are way ahead of the pack. So you've had this special relationship with wood and to trees. And I was wondering if you could tell us more about that.
Yes, let's start. Let's start with the discarded material. You know, as an artist, all through high school, all through college and graduate school, you know, you look for material that are discarded. So because we didn't have much money, as you're all aware of that. So, you know, so first material I encountered that I can use a lot of it was the discarded by parquet floor of my apartment. When I get out of college, and as they were throwing out all these, the floor that I had, and they say they are not allowing me to keep it. So then I collect every piece from the window. They throw out through the window, I collect on the ground, so that become my material. So this is an example of a piece that I also call broken column, and did it in, you know, around that time, in about 1994. And you know, made up of parquet floor and pine, and it's about 6 feet tall. Now then, you know, collecting, you know, what they call building material, it's abundance in the, you know, in the dumpster and all that. But also when the next phase I bump into is getting into tree material as my artwork is when I went to Norway. I mean, this is a beautiful scenery. What I first get to Norway, which I was awarded a residency in Norway in 1999. That was, frankly, is a paradise for me. You know, this is the scenery you see around the place where I was going to be staying to make work for 2 months. And this is a dream. Every artist, well, I'm one of the 5. I got one of these studio plus a separate building for living, and you can bring your family. But in here, I start to work with material that I never worked with in terms of wood that usually get it all cleaned and sand and plain. But this is my order material. I got tree material that have bark on it that I never get the chance to come across with it. And I start to look at it and start smelling it and start looking at it. They are just too beautiful to cut off. So end up building pieces quickly. You can see sketches, you know, inside the studio, building a kind of, tall sculpture that I was going to build. And here I was, end up finishing it, give it the scale. I was so excited. I want to stand on the top and look at the world around me. And the piece you can enter, you know, there's an entry for you to go in and sit down to contemplate. And then that was really, I think I would call the time change for my relationship with wood. I feel I really get into really relate to trees, you know, where it came from, you know, and the wood where it came from. And then at the same time, I can use it both ways, the clean side of the bark and also with the bark. And this particular piece has actually have grass, you know, growing on top as a response to their heritage, you know, about their cultural use of grass as a roofing in Norway. I was really, really, really amazed by that. So the next call was in Bethesda, Maryland, when the Stretchmore Hall Art Center called me and say, we have a few acres of tree need to cut down. And they knew I work with wood. So would you like to use some of the wood for making art? I say, yes. When tree fell down, it hurts. I love trees. I don't like trees to get cut, but when they get cut, I really want to do something to give it another life, to kind of extend their living. So in other words, these are beautiful hardwood tree from mulberry, which is a yellow one, and cherry, and also walnut, which are all expensive hardwood nowadays. Okay, so here I get a chance to hire a wood miser, a guy who has a wood wiser, which is basically using it a portable sawmill that you can really actually cut the planks of wood, a tree into planks on site. And here it is into stacks and stacks of lumber. And they told me if I don't get the wood the day before, all this wood will be discarded and turned into mulches for landscape use or whatever. So I was so happy. At the same time, I got myself a big job. So there I used the wood and turned into another sculpture. At that moment was 9/11 hit our country. It was a very sad moment. So I wanted to do something really in return to that moment of sadness. So I built two tall towers. I respond to the two World Trade Center tower that each one has 110 layers. And it took me 4 months to finish only one half. And keeping the bark on the outside and keeping the clean wood on the inside. So then eventually finished. So in the World Bank in 2003, took me about a year and a half to complete this project. And sadly remind me, my mother passed away when I finished about the 68 layer on the right-hand side. So my mother told me, Foon, you make sure you finish this project. And also she passed away, around that time. So anyway, back to the tree material, the interior of the sculpture is what I love as well. That I want viewer to allow to come in and also enjoy what's inside and smell the wood as well. So this kind of a relationship with the tree continues because when you start doing this kind of work, people start to call you. And this is a home space, which is where I teach. What I teach at University of Maryland, that's a big giant white oak tree called Chapel Oak need to come down. So they call me, will we save the wood? Will you be able to build a sculpture for it? I say yes, but please save the wood first because I was in California when they called me. So this is the tree before the night before, and then turn into, again, logs of lumber, cut it into pieces outside the chapel in that UM campus.
Wow.
So some of the bigger log you can use, and some of the small one, I start cutting them into planks with my assistant, who is a grad student at that time. He's a professor now at UNC. And so eventually built this sculpture called the Chapel Oak Vessel, shown in Arlington Art Center, where we both were in 2013. And then after that, another 15 logs of pine tree came down in Boyd, Maryland. So I say, well, was looking for material to build a big, tall, long sculpture, eventually become Escape. And I like this particular log of wood on the right side. You can see the irregularity on the branches coming out compared to the left one, which is quite smooth. So I was choosing to use the particularity of that particular tree and then see how the edges are quite different from a normal straight logs, which you don't get in Home Depot because they will all get removed. So it smelled really good. Pine is one of the really strong, good smelling. And I built it on outdoor site, which is very hot in the summer of 2016. And eventually finished this piece called Escape. It's one of my all-time favorite.
Yeah. Mine too. Yeah, we were talking about it.
And I think you were able to get to see it as well. So so the piece eventually finished. And you can see the exterior is filled with these, kind of rugged, edges with distinct, characteristic, what I call ears. A lot of ears come out from this particular piece. So, and then recently, Smithsonian institution have many museums, as you all know. And many of the museums all do have trees on campus and on their ground, and they do fall down or fell down or die of different reasons. So these are beautiful birch, elm from the natural history, some of them from Ann's Bay, some of them from what they call the American Indian Museum. So here is again, the trees are speaking to me again. So I say, well, they would say they would do me a favor. They would do the hard work of hiring someone to plane it down for me. So eventually plane down plants and store at the greenhouse in the somewhere near Landover, Maryland, somewhere up there in the storage. So then I was asked to do a piece for the Habitat exhibition. And that was in next right on the ground. I picked outside the National Museum of American History. And this is the site. And I proposed drawing, which is my usual way to work with, commission artwork, make drawings. Conceptually, as you know, I dream big. I want it to be a large sculpture and the image of a mushroom. Why? Because it talks about habitat. I think mushroom is a very strong member of the ecosystem. Besides it breaking down, organic matter, tree material into nutrients for trees for recycling, but also has a strong millions of mycelium underground. They call the wide world web underground. So I use mushroom as icon, symbolic of the importance how we should protect the habitat. So this now become my studio, which filled it all out with layers of this tree material that occupy my whole studio in the fall semester of 2018. And I tell you what, I myself built this piece finish one layer about a day because of its difficulty of irregularity of the piece and the decision to make the form according to my sketch. I get to the point it's so complicated because the piece is bigger than the truck already by this time. Wow. So I have to color code it inside so that I know how to separate the piece in sections so I can move it out of the studio. Otherwise, it will become a permanent installation in my studio. This is about 9 tons of wood.
Wow.
9,000 of wood, 4.5 tons, but 9,000 of wood, 9,000 pounds. So, and then you can see installed in sections and eventually become the piece now still on display until at least the end of this year outside across the street from the Museum of African American History. And
terrific.
And you can see how people interact with it, then the panel education panel about how important we should protect the habitat as well, how mushroom play in the role as the what they call ecosystem. And I hope you have a chance, all of you who are living in Washington, if you have not, come join it and see the piece before it comes to move or somewhere, or be still there now.
Well, speaking of public commissions, you and I both have an image behind us that's special, near and dear to Arlington Public Art. We commissioned you to do a sculpture for our Oakland Park, which is in Virginia Square, not too far from the Arlington Art Center. The piece is called Ridge, and it had an interesting story just because we typically invite artists to come in and develop integrated projects with our facilities, be they parks or buildings or infrastructure. And we had some money set aside in the budget for the park to make a pavilion. And then we had some money set aside for public art, and we were able to combine those budgets and invite you to develop this really sensational pavilion. So, one of the thoughts that's kind of been running through my mind is how your public work differs from your studio work. I mean, you have a robust practice in both areas, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little more about that.
Well, as you can see at the end, this project was always start with a call, what the objective and the site was chosen. And so as your project here, your call was, this is the park that running a little bit over the years. As you know, this is actually the Oakland Park before the renovation. And you guys were the Arlington, your department of public art. We're looking for someone to say, how can we, including myself and your department and the Parks Authority, can make some changes to make this park to be friendly using and more beautiful and, and upgraded to the level that people can enjoy when they walk through the path. So this is what it was. So I was public art meaning commission, meaning that is a client involved. I am the art person to help to solve the problem. At the same time, I'm using the best of my artistic knowledge, concepts and skills to bring you, a piece that would integrate all these, ideas together as one product. So as I see, so I start making drawing as usual. So to see, visualize what the path might look like with my sculpture in there, they have to also, I think I remember the call, you look for something to have a shelter, to create a partial shelter, but also that people have a choice to go through the path or not. So this is one of the few proposals I submitted with a scale model and all that. And eventually the selection panel selected this work called Reach. And then eventually I start working the next phase after series of meetings with the community, engineer, architect, and landscape architect on a monthly, almost like every 2 months basis about how do we get this, park into a next level of, beauty, so then I start to get into dimensional drawings, and all these steps are important for public art commission because somebody else need to see that to make sure it won't fall. Make sure it is constructed with concrete base, which I draw there, have all concrete base go underground. And so my personal work, I don't need to do all that. It is me. I have to answer to myself. I can enjoy what I like to do and no meetings with other people, just do what I want. But here, everybody who haven't done public art, be ready. You're going to have a lot of meetings and a lot of budget constraint. Then my drawing turned into structural engineering drawing with my model on the left, which I built, and they come down with all these texts. It's about how many pounds of concrete, how much pressure per square inch, and where to put it, and where the nuts and bolts are. I have to follow all these rules. These have to be obeyed. Otherwise, Angela, they won't let me go, right? So this has to be stamped. So on the right-hand side, you can see a stamp there, which is stamped by the structural engineer.
So Foon, before we move off of this, somebody had just asked a question about do you collaborate with structural engineers? And of course, you've just answered that. But while we're here, could you please describe the technique for fastening the layers of wood that you use in sections? And is it a combination of mechanical fasteners and glue? This was a question from the audience.
Yeah, quickly, in outdoor work, all fastened with screws. Outdoor, rust-proof screw that will be used for outdoors. I do not show hardware because I do not like to show hardware at all. So most of the people say, well, can that be touched? Can that be pushed? Yes, they can. They were strongly screwed together and no glue for outdoor because glue will break down over time.
Great.
And I do work with structural engineering because they are the one who have to stem let's say if they want 5,000 pound concrete, I say 2,000, I have to go with 5,000. If they use 5 inches pipe, I propose 4 inches pipe. I have to end up using 5 inches pipe galvanized. That is the way it is, so because they want to make sure everything's secure so they can put the blue stamp on it. Because my stamp is not important according to the law, okay? But so far what I propose hasn't failed. They are standing beautifully above 35 feet, so they are fine. Okay, let's move on to the finished product. Real quickly, we have a couple more minutes to show you the park has been renovated and, my sculpture finished. You can see people have an option to go to the left without going through my sculpture, or they can come in to go underneath my sculpture if they choose to. And of course, this is America. People always need to have a choice, right? So now they're also, the landscape architect also proposed to have furniture outside so people can come in and enjoy in the shade, including people underprivileged, handicapped, to people who are homeless, to people who are me, who want to go there for lunch. I have to wait because the space is occupied. So now you see the wood also, this is a different tree material from manufactured in Norway. a side step here, just a side note, this particular material have gone through a treatment by Norway. They say we should not use hardwood from the rainforest anymore. And we want to take the sustainable material called pine, which can be regrown in a very quick time so that we can use it for a longer period of time outdoor. By what they do is removing the moisture from all the molecules inside the tree, and they fill it with bio-based liquid. So basically all the inner molecules of the fibers are filled with this liquid that can harden almost like silicate, so that any other moisture cannot get in. Without moisture getting in, as you know, fungus cannot grow, then cannot rot, then the piece will last, they say, for 30 years in terms of longevity. So let's see the brown will turn gray like my hair and yours beautifully in the new patina. Anyway.
So Foon, so you don't use anything else to protect the wood. It's the wood, is this Cabernet wood, is that correct?
Yeah, this wood will change color, become the coating on the outside as it age, and no maintenance required.
Okay, and then do you remember the landscape architect for this project was an in-house landscape architect, right?
That's right, but also when I work with two, the first one has changed position somewhere, and I went with another one. So the material actually was introduced by the first one.
I see. Yeah.
And then we end up using it as a material for this project. Yes.
We're really fortunate to have a team of very accomplished landscape architects in our park planning and design unit within the Parks and Department here.
Right.
So often they are the lead then on a park redesign, and then if we have an artist invited, the artist will then collaborate with the landscape architect.
Yes, this is actually, I would say, success story, because many projects I was asked to the ground has been done, the building has been done. They asked the artist to come in. That's too late to make changes. So I did not want to tell you all the detail, but we went through a lot of changes on this particular project. It started 16 and we ended up finishing 19.
That's right. 3 years. Yep. Yeah. That's actually short for public art, but
yeah, well, yeah, it's a lot. I mean, that means, you feel like if you have 3 of those projects, you're working on it almost every year. So
that's right.
So this is where the background is. People enjoying it, and of all ages, and have Wi-Fi available on site, and people been really enjoying. And there's also a food truck there that people can enjoy some Mexican food on site as well. So now they explain what this is my crew who finished it, and just give you a little touch about your next question about how my team helped me build sculpture. These are all graduates. The oldest one here graduate 68, graduate 98 on the right hand side, and 18. And the one in front is just graduate, third year right now. We're working with me right now. Okay, so now back to your question that you asked about 10 minutes ago. How is it different than my indoor work? My indoor works I call candy pieces. Sweet, enjoyable, enlightening, relaxing. So I just work with whatever I have in my studio, put it together with no blueprint, just put it together, enjoy. I also like to make vessel form, but because I like to deal with inside and outside at all the time. So this is a scrap wood that have mahogany and some what they call cedar in my studio, and then some cherry on top. So the piece I put together like a couple of days. Sometimes I work with color, inspired by my residence in France. So these are like, by the way, collectible items. So these were all collected. So because they were small, and a big project like Arlington commission project, you have the idea about half an hour. You end up being a labor of your own idea for about 3 years. So this is so much more fun, but at the same time, no guarantee of return. As you know, you don't necessarily sell it, right? So, but at the same time, I don't mind doing that at all. So, it's just a few examples to give you an idea how much I enjoy making work in both kind of a mode, commission mode, at the same time working for myself as what I like to do in my studio. So and the smallest one I ever made. People say, how can you make small work? Yes, I do. This is about 6 inches tall.
6 inches.
Inside a, framed up in a shadow box. So
Incredible. So, so turning to the work you created for the National Building Museum this summer, the Maze of Knowledge, can you tell us the story of how this project came to be, and both the work itself and its display at the museum?
yes, I would love to do that. That is our main course coming up. I could use this slide to give you a little preview. As you know, I always work with wood in all forms, right? And at the same time, you can see a little bit the phone book here. I use wood to its extended family to paper, which is made from wood, and then to sawdust, which you will see in the future. And this is, the bottom part is mixture of sawdust and glue. And so the next phase, the next piece I want to show you is the piece that are now, in display. But how the inspiration came from, as you asked me, this is back to my childhood memory. As most artists do, my work, many artists' work reflect their lives, how they live, how they were brought up, and their childhood experience as well, what happened to their life. This is, I was born in Macau, and a Portuguese colony, has Catholic, influence at all areas. And I was raised and born as a Catholic. And so this is amazing kind of a sculpture and building left over of a 17th century St. Paul Church. The only thing left was the facade. And I was amazing as a young person. How could it stand? Most of the building stand with a lot of supporting columns and all that. It was nothing there. So if you give detail, really the only thing left is basically the front. The back is all demolished. And the other thing, I travel a lot and I see kind of as American, what I call dwellings that are really beautiful, but they all are functional kind of structure that they actually live in there and survive. And I think to me are very beautiful little ruin that we have still kept for us to experience. And in 2009, went to Scotland for a trip and stay in this Scottish what I call a castle for 3 weeks. And I was inspired, all these columns. And again, remember I show you a broken column before? Here, another broken column outside the backyard with the scrap wood and a stone on top to give it that relationship between the land and the piece. Now come to the most amazing thing happened when I went to France in 2018 doing an exhibition and also other work that I show you to have a little bit influenced by the color. But one of the pieces I show in the residency was this piece. Somewhat look like a maze now, but basically it's all the scrap wood I have left at the end, and then create this kind of look like a maze structure. But the other material on the ground is beautiful leftover sawdust from the four different kinds of wood I use: acacia, the French cedar, and the sycamore, and the oak they have, and walnut. And there you can see some are lighter colors, some are light blonde, dark blonde, brown, and all that. So what's amazing is when the exhibition opening over next day, guess what happened? Angela, take a look at this.
That's incredible. What is that?
That is
Footprints.
that's footprint, but I couldn't find a human footprint that small because this wood is about 3 inches, 1 inch, 1/4 inch leftovers, and the radio figure out, is there was a lizard around in the building all the time.
A lizard?
A lizard, a tiny one. And they went through and show you all the path. And that gave me that really inspiration of creating a maze for somewhere. I don't know what I want to do yet, but at the same time, you can see the route here. They're going in, get stuck and go back and then come out and then come back in. That actually is one of the green paths. Or green, scavenger hunt. One of the green route is basically have this similar route. Get outside and then come back in. So.
That's awesome. It's amazing that a lizard taught you how to make the piece for the building museum.
Yeah, well, we inspired by everything we saw, and at the same time, some people would say, "Well, let you erase it." No, this is just beautiful, beautiful things. I don't know what they call it artwork by him, but it is a beautiful thing. So on my way back on the plane, I start. I want to do something. I want to propose something structure like based on my childhood memory, my inspiration for a maze, and make this drawing in the plane with the size of my sketchbook, which is about 6 by 8 inches. And one of the pages that I show you the original 2018 proposal. And I think the best place, what I remember, there was a building called National Building Museum. Way back when I was a grad student, I went there as a grad student, went to see Laurie Anderson doing a performance there with a violin. I never forget that. But in front of those giant columns, I want to be back. I want to bet, and this is maybe my chance to propose a sculpture to go there, and he is the drawing for it. And originally the columns were outside. You can see the path for people to go in, and the building museum is on the background as a sketch. And then I mix model based on, at that time, I was thinking about a concentric circle so that people go in. But the problem is, if you do this, people get stuck. So it's better with the lizard idea, go in and out. So, and then eventually turn into a maze kind of a format. Then I need, then I want to say how I can get people stay in my sculpture longer than I usually keep them for about a minute or two. The lizard spend some time, but at the same time, how do I keep intelligent people like you all can stay longer than usually just come in and walk out? So back to the phone book, the books idea become another thing hanging in my head. So it's likely maybe I put books in, but then the book people cannot read because they will become like a library and become books everywhere. So become an issue about maintenance. So and then eventually I'm thinking, well, let's put books. Then also making sculpture with phone book in it as part of the kind of a making of the thing that I really like about combining wood and paper.
And more recycled material.
Yes, but also you can see the pattern on the piece is actually making columns of color because these were ink. They were ink on the phone book.
Wow.
So eventually I decided to put books in. Then books in will fulfill my need, right, for people to interact with it. But then they were all secure inside so people cannot get it. Awesome. So they kind of look at the title and able to interact with it. So I was thinking, if I want to relate to the American people who grew up here, I need to use their book. The book they read, the book they read, they have come across with since grade school to college to high school. So these were books that I somewhat get a donation from a library from PG County and some from my elementary school. And some of my assistants collect some and then bring them to my studio to use. So basically, this is the beginning of the first section in 2018 summer. 2019 summer.
It looks like a book, right? The way it's these elements.
Yes. Each one is basically a book fold up with two sides, but the cover is on the inside while the pages without the titles are on the outside. So it's like a reverse, but basically they are all basically little book, giant books and small books title in the inside. Right. So you can see the process of building layers and one section, two sections a week, and then start to have storage issue. As you know, if I put the whole piece together, my studio would not fit. So I have to line them up, section them up so that, and then I show you some of the titles that I chose or come with it, whatever I have as well. So when I choose the titles, then books, they usually based on a couple of things. The size has to fit together, right? So that the books line up a little bit, but they're off a little bit here, that's okay. But also on the lower side, they usually books up tailored to the younger folks, which is they can, books they read when they were younger. And then, books that were higher were more, adult books that people are, these are more serious, kind of messages. As you all know, women led the way, as people call women's movement, all this, Me Too movement, all that, right? So two books I have difficulty when I was in college, The Art of the Renaissance, which I really had a struggle and hard time. And I got a B in that school, in that course, which is I did all my best, but hard to remember all these mythology names. So anyway, so let's go you real quick about the process.
Okay. Looks like we're looking inside a truck.
That's right. One truck is not enough.
What?
Two 20,
Oh my.
220-foot truck, 220-foot.
Incredible.
220-foot. And then I have to get my another grad student, Martin, which I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
He ran another form. He drive the other one at the same time. So we load up everything on Father's Day with 2 trucks and with 6 people. And then by the time we get to the museum on Monday, we have 2 truckload with 6 people start unloading. And this is where we were, look like moving a little, puzzle pieces. And they get confused with my map. Where did everything go? They have to look at the map, which is really difficult to find out where everything is. It took them a while, and I have to be telling them this one go there and go here. And this is how we install. This is at the Great Hall. Finally, I landed in the place where I want to be. So thank you. Take this opportunity to thank you. The National Building Museum gave me this opportunity. I want to thank you again. And
so how long did it take to install?
Well, originally I planned to do it in 6 days, but since Channel 7 is coming on Thursday morning, they told me, so well, I'll do my best. I'll double up the people, double up their time, and we finished. This is the time we have lunch, and the puzzle pieces get more, and finally put it together. This is my last piece, using basically they're all finger jointed with the mallet to put it together, pound it together so it won't hurt the wood, and then it's together now. This is the maze. Oh
my goodness. Beautiful photos. And your daughter took a lot of these photos, your daughter Pui, right?
Yeah, she's coming in a little bit later, but I was taking this at Wednesday night. As you see, there was natural light. There was no sunlight coming in, and the fountain was not on, but I took this opportunity because there were no boundary or ropes around the piece, which is cleaned. And this is the first time, at that time was my first time seeing it together.
It's funny, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just seeing for the first time the modeling in the marbleization on the columns and the texture of the piece. You're definitely responding to the site. You know?
Yes.
It's really beautiful. I mean, I've been in it, but I haven't seen it from this perspective before. So
thank you. Yeah. So it was nervous breaking because what if it doesn't work? What if I was size something wrong, because not much time to change. But I had enough experience to do bisection that expect it to be good together. So we have one thing we had to test. Now, public artwork, the word big public means everybody included. That means people with wheelchair have to be allowed to go in. And so we had to test all my 4 different routes with the wheelchairs. So I used a museum chair as the standard of measure, which is about 30 inches across, and then going through with the routes. I want to take this opportunity to thank my niece, who is Heidi Kwong, who is a senior at UCLA down in Los Angeles, doing her last year. And I asked her to help me to compose the 4 different routes, what they call scavenger hunts, so that people take different route to go through the maze, and different categories of themes, and from scenic to architecture to scholarly and to rainbow colors, on different entry. She's amazing. I want to thank her before I forget, and then we test it out, and that's the end when we complete the piece, and happy ending. As UK, we start with 6, we end up with 4. That happens all the time. So she always planned for at least we got it done by Wednesday night. So I don't know whether we should play the video. You let me know. This is a video of the piece, about 2 minutes. We can skip it if you want.
Yeah, let's play a little bit of it. I mean, I remember I did the red route and the green route with you, I think.
Right.
You were kind of tricky. You were definitely.
The red one is the easiest and more chair, what I call wheelchair friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear the fountain.
I remember when we were there, it was before it officially opened, and people were just busting through
Yeah.
the mansions. You couldn't keep them out. And of course, kids immediately climbed in. They knew exactly
Yeah.
what for them. They climbed in the broken columns. Yeah.
Credit to my daughter, Pui. She did that while we were talking. She did the video. See you and me there, right there.
I got a little preview. It was wonderful. And people, how are people interacting with it? Are they fairly respectful of, I know there's a lot, people probably can't resist touching it, right?
Oh
So,
yeah, I want people to touch it. No problem at all. I just want to make sure they touch would not hurt them. That's all.
that's right.
They touch it. The kids will jump without asking. They will go in and out and out. And the people sometimes respectful because they might see go to museum. They expect artwork are not supposed to be touched. So there are all kinds of reaction to it. We'll get to some photo in a minute. Let me see. I love that fountain too.
Yes.
The beautiful. I mean, I'm just thankful, that I'm being partnered with this building, and whoever they, give me the opportunity was great. So during the process, there was the light hits the piece when I was installing. I was so thrilled and just like, wow, I summoned my daughter come take, the light hits it, the book reflect on the color and all that coming through the holes. It is something I look for, chasing the light, as Sarah put it, chasing the light. And then my daughter, I say, please come and take some photos. She have a different eye than I do, which I respect a lot.
Yep.
And these are the showcase of her, few photos of hers. So you can take a look at her. This is her portfolio, a little bit of her pieces that my daughter Pui took.
Beautiful.
The pieces come alive with the lights in it. So.
And also it's going to develop a patina of the visitors who come and touch it and interact with it.
That's correct. And I love the light coming through those holes. Yep. And then this is.
And you mentioned Sarah, before I forget, Sarah Tangi, our mutual friend who often writes for Sculpture Magazine, recently interviewed you, right? And turned in a lovely essay, which I got to preview in preparing for this talk. And I think that's going to be published coming up. So
yes, that's correct, by the Sculpture Magazine. Yes,
yeah,
right.
Sculpture Magazine.
So these are the photos that I don't, this moment you capture bring about 3 to 4 p.m. with rainy day like today you won't get, but it's just like going to see a Grand Canyon, right? You get different, you don't get the sun, when you see the river, that kind of moment. Yep. I say enjoy the moment, and thank you that my daughter took some, and I really again appreciate that. So our direct, being director of communication right there, he's my scale model. He's much taller than me. Right. And these are my photos. My photos are more standard compared to my daughter's.
Appreciating. Okay, now we get to see some folks in the piece.
Yeah, now to see folks in. Actually, I get yelled at by the museum staff. At one point, they were not supposed to go in. I let them in because I do not say how to say no, but it was I finished early, so they have a right. They were right, and I was also. Should not say yes, we are allowed to come in because it was not quite finished. So,
right.
So this come out, Angela, be frank, I imagined this. I imagined they're going everywhere. So this is also I expected this young fellow want to get in as, without asking, which I don't mind. I love it. They love the little space they go in. And these two, they asked me whether they can go in. I say, yes, you go in with me in there. That'll be fine. So they enjoyed it. And more people at the opening. this is what I really want to see. And people start
Full house.
bending down to read. Some of the older folks said to me, it's not right. You cannot put those books too low for our knees. You know, my knees hurts. You know, I say, well, sorry, I didn't think about that part. So, and there it is. And the younger folks sometimes need some help. He's doing the red lines. Is the son of my nephew. And
You pulled me through. I was grateful for the help.
yeah, say, Daddy, please help me. Where is this word? He's doing the architecture route. We talk about the museum, talk about who are the architects, you know, who they show artists, you know, and what the columns made of. And of course, this is what happened all the time, you know. So
Love that.
so we talk about interaction. We talk about, I want people to come in to be part of my sculpture all these years. So we can talk about a little bit about that, you know, right after this. And if you bear with me, this is you again, and I have this slide
I
for
saw
you.
that. I'm everywhere in these images. I had no idea these were being taken, but
I didn't know neither. My daughter took it.
Okay.
Uh,
so yeah.
One last thing, this particular group of family, I watched them for an hour. They went through all the routes. I talked to them afterwards, and this at the last at the green route at the end. So I appreciate that. I said that, thank you for doing that. I say, did you enjoy the moment? I say, yeah, they really enjoyed it. So
That's great.
so
okay, so we're getting some good questions about wood, and I think we're going to get to those maybe at the end, but because I want to keep you going on this idea of interactive.
right.
So, you know, clearly with this piece, there's something for all ages, but this is not true of just this piece. A lot of your works, you really encourage people to engage with your works, to go inside, to, you know, have a response to the pieces. So talk about that type of engagement that you elicit, and maybe show us some other examples if you would.
Yes, I think one of the things I didn't realize after I'm looking back, you know, years of work is it really started out in 1997 when I have the chance, frankly, when my first sabbatical, have some time for myself to build large work. And this piece was, I have an opportunity to do a piece for the GW campus, downtown Washington. So I was building this giant sculpture. And then before that, moved downtown, I asked my whole class who came in to see how many people I can put in. This is how it began. I really like that. I really like that photo, which is my whole class can get inside. And we can have a conversation, critique about anything you want to share. At that time was not a pandemic time. We have no mask. We didn't have to worry about social distancing, and also have to have an opening so we can close at nighttime. You see the gate there? I have to close the piece at nighttime, 5 p.m. because we do worry about the homeless to spend the permanent home there, which is quite a nice home to be with skylights like this.
Beautiful.
How do you say no to that?
Yeah.
Take a look, Angela. This is just look like the planet. Just look like the planet of North America and South America with the ocean around it. But this is just clouds. So it was just beautiful. So with that experience, I do want people to come in and enjoy my piece both outside and inside. So that was really long time ago. I had that kind of motivation and objective long ago. So I'm going to go through real quick that desire to chase that interior exterior experience was ongoing in 99 in Chicago. People come in and sit inside, the light coming through again through the sun, and enjoying ice cream, to the Arlington piece, the kids running in and out, chasing hide and seek, to playing music. This is one of the pieces that you can play music with echoes of sound. The best echo system. You can hear yourself talking and the guitar sound vibrates and echoes and resonance, all that. And this one fits 30 people inside. So student to myself, to people enjoying the snow, to the piece now outside of the National Museum of American History.
So let me ask about this. So this is the same piece you did and showed it in Lorton at your studio, near your studio. And the same piece some of us saw at the Katzen, right?
That's right. Right.
And then you've installed it in a slightly different fashion here. So you've adapted it for the space, so to speak.
Yeah, the space is like I told you, the space completely changed. The curvilinear path. So my idea of a straight path is no longer available. They told me, the landscape architect of Smithsonian, say, you cannot do the straight path anymore. So we have to adjust it. At the same time, my piece have to be broken up. Well, that is a problem, and yes and no, because I would adjust the piece, but the title has to be changed. It's no longer about escape, about the long journey I had in mind about chasing my American dream to be an artist, which is that piece is a metaphor about. And the contour line was no longer there. So this piece just become called Arches of Life. Arches of Life is about how the decaying wood help the forest. All these dead wood lying in the forest, you might wonder why the Park Service do not remove them, because they are healthy for the tree to regrow, because the dead wood bring nutrients to the live trees. So I understand why I went to park now, all these dead tree lying around, because they were asked to stay to keep keeping the habitat healthy. So people do interact with it tremendously, even with a different format. And tour bus, as you know, before the pandemic, people come down, put the luggage aside and take pictures with it to, this is near the Smithsonian, as you know, and people, the young children, which I love, to people with wheelchair, to folks with sitting next to it. This is what I do enjoy seeing with my work out there. Now, I want to make sure that clear to the audience here. I'm not really trying to make a piece like a playground. This is not what I have. There are artist vision, aesthetics, their concept behind the piece that need to be respected. This is not just about, a piece just for function as well, but original artistic objective merit have to be kept and maintained. And so we talked about this piece earlier. It's about the original piece called Escape. This is one of the pieces you saw earlier. The outside contour is my commentary about the building of the US-Mexican border, which is the outline is the US from San Diego to all the way to Texas, El Paso to all the way to Ray, all the way as the outdoor, what they call exterior contour of the piece. And people again love to go in, come in, and
your
walk through.
Influences can be fairly wide. I mean, because somebody asked about influences. So I know for the piece that you did for us, you talk about the Blue Ridge Mountains, right? Not too far away. And this, you're talking about the border between the US and Mexico. Right. What other things have influenced your work over the years?
Well, landscape is really one of them. Mountains, Grand Canyon. You saw my recent exhibition about the Grand Canyon experience. The Utah rocks. Frankly, between you and me, all those natural wonder, I have no place for myself. I was too small. They are just magnificent. I'm not even want to compare myself to it. But in the man-made world, in the artificial world, I have a little place for myself that compared with things that people made. I think, I want to have a little presence there. But if I put my piece next to Niagara Falls, Grand Canyon, just step aside, Foon, this is not you. But I have my dream to chase. This piece, I really love the lights, it correspond to all the openings. It just, and the reflection of the glass door give me more tunnel. And I enjoy every moment of this piece. And inside there are markings of the day I construct, just like a prisoner would do in the prison cell. This is a long year and a half journey that I built in sections, outdoor under 90-degree sun. My wife had to really buy me a tent because she worried about I turn completely black. I mean, in skin color tone. So who did I met in my tunnel? Let me introduce you, Mrs. Hogan, the First Lady of State of Maryland, came to my show. Thank you again. If you were the audience, thank you for coming, and be glad to meet you there. So, and
that's impressive. Well, I wanted to ask, also speaking of notoriety, I mean, you yourself just were awarded the International Sculpture Center's 2021 Outstanding Educator Award. And that actually, the ceremony for that took place at the Building Museum recently. Your career as a professional artist, has largely tracked with your career as a professor teaching art to other people. So one of the things that you and I talked about, and I'm curious to hear you tell us more about it, is really how these two paths have intertwined for you. You talked a little bit about hiring your students, but so when is it, that you're being a professor, and when is it you're being an artist, and where do these things combine really in your experience?
Yeah, the one thing about being a professor is you have the opportunity to share your experience and vision and and your technical skills with younger folks who just want to become an artist as well, or learn to be how to make art, right? Not necessarily become an artist. Some of them say, I don't want to be an artist, just want to learn the experience. So that become my role in the classroom is I serve as a mentor, as an instructor in somebody called, or professor, to share my vision and my ideas with them one-on-one with a group, and give them particular assignment to follow. And then so they see how they come up with 5 or 20 different answers within the class. Unlike teaching mathematics, 2 by 2 equal to 4, we want the same class come up with the same answer. But teaching art, this is in the classroom, I want 20 different answers, for this repetition project. Found and found object, inexpensive, totally less than $20. You don't have to spend money if you can collect them. And these are, gumballs, and just build whatever you build a structure over 2 feet.
So this is one of your favorite assignments, as I understand.
My favorite assignment, because it had to do with what I do as well, but not the same, is repetition, right? And one single element of my piece of wood does not mean much, but when it repeats to 100 times, 100 times more, or 1,000 times, or this maze 2,200 times, that means a lot more than one piece of wood. So where this gumball did not mean much, except it's just chewing gum. You just put in your mouth and gone.
So you basically ask your students to go find 100 identical objects that are inexpensive. The whole thing can't cost more than $20.
Less than $20, yes.
Okay. And then what do you ask them to do?
Just repeat to create a structure that are beautiful, can be seen beautiful all around, structurally sound with glue gun, and then, create something that nobody else does before, right? So we have 20 different answers. And then we compete with who is look better. Maybe some will fail, some never made it. Some people use penny, have a difficult time because the penny takes a long time to get up and also too heavy to sustain the weight. So they learn while they're doing it. Also, they learn from their failures as well. Some marble just hard to glue because they are not gluable material. They just stop falling apart. But some of them use forks and knives, anything that are people discard or cheap, inexpensive. So take away being expensive is not the answer. Be smart about what you transform a found object, which can be useless or not important, paper plate, whatever, and turn it into something that are represented by your idea and your skill and mindset.
And so, it's a challenge you give yourself, it sounds like, in your own work, in a lot of
yeah, but I have no idea to ask them to do anything I do that become a Xerox machine, which I do not want to be.
No.
You don't need one more of me. One is enough, right? So we don't, so they were working on different projects to cardboard. First project, create, figurative work or non-figurative work that has to be site-specific to the atrium in our school, where they will build a piece that would fit that space, whatever figurative to non-figurative. So I display all their work. We do it as a team. We need to cast figures inside the classroom. The architecture students say, well, I did not bring the material. Can I lend my body to all of you to cast my body? And the lady said, I need a leg, I need an arm, just give it to me. And then, we finish with the project and everybody share the project in the atrium I talked about earlier, that they all display at the same time. No screen from my part. They all, if you do well, I'm happy for you, but make sure you don't embarrass you and myself at the same time. So Anyway, so this is one of my example of my class that has become other career to become artists. And one of them, she came to my opening just the July 1st.
Yeah, you had a lot of students at the ceremony for the award. It was wonderful.
Yes, about 50. They were about there. So I also went overseas. The State Department, the Art in Embassy program sent me to Suriname, which is a very small country, a former Dutch colony, who asked me to go there and give them a 1 week workshop and help them to give them an opportunity to make larger scale sculpture as a group. And the State Department financed material and my time and my travel time and gave them the opportunity to make something bigger than the classroom and display. They did everything in one room. So I'm happy to have the opportunity to give them some, experience that they don't have. And some of them are graphic artists to, interior design, whatever that might want to be. But they are underprivileged, and I'm glad to help to deliver that gift to them. Then when I do my big work as Angelo, I'm a small guy, I can lift so much, every plank I can do about 30 pounds. But when you get to this size, though, this my crew, which is my son in there, part-time to grad students to helper who are volunteer and working in the mud. Not many people willing to do that. So and working early in the morning to 9 p.m. when the snow came. Everybody in the museum already left and went home and shut the door. We were the only 5 guys left. The crane and my son and Monroe, who also one of the ISC Student Award winner, who came to the opening as well. My son on the back said, "I don't want to work for you anymore," next day. So this is our collaboration. These are all my lovely students, and they don't work for free. I provide the part-time opportunity for them. So we help each other out at the same time. They compensate for their time. So they have some money to buy material or pay rent, and including my son. So I'll pay workers. And this is just, I love seeing this. And I enjoy the moment they all gave me. At the same time, I'm part of their moments as well. So I like to see smiles. I need to see we are helping each other. Small guy go up top, heavy guy on the bottom. We need to balance each other's help and to make this giant 36 feet high.
That was at the Katzen too, right?
That was in Katzen. Well, the escape tunnel was outside. This is called the escape tower, was inside.
Right.
So give you another quick example. I think we have a few minutes. I will speed it up a little bit. And
you're doing great. And so, I will say a couple of your students have joined the chat. Foz says that he was a student of yours in the 90s and he wanted to say hi and thank you for teaching and your amazing work. And then another student, Gordon, he's from the 1990s, just wanted to say hi and for being one of his mentors. So anyway, you've really made an impression on so many people. They say your work is fantastic. And so, yeah, it's really great that you've made this connection with your students. I don't know that all professors can say as much. And you're bringing them to important places. So this one looks familiar. This is a fairly recent project you did, very visible project in Rockville.
Yeah, this is Angela, funny timing why this project was commissioned after your Arlington project. But we finished in 4 months.
That's right. I remember that. I
finished it. And this guy on the crane, he is now assistant professor, I told you, at UNC. He deserved all he got, everything he deserved it. He's very good. I'm lucky to meet him. So the previous part like this is 28 feet in REI outside in the North Bethesda. If you guys are around from there, stop by. You can drive by. You see it at nighttime too. This is made of that same material from Norway, the Kiboni pine, and beautiful light at night. And I always love the people send me what they call a text now. I saw your piece. I know that was, you don't need to check. It must be yours, right? Yes, it is.
What do you want people to take away from your work? I mean, obviously some of it's awesome, right? And scale and the way it envelops you. But I mean, what do you hope people take away from your?
Well, I think to sounds kind of what is the word is believe in your dream. As yes, even if you're a young artist, we always have a lot of doubts, especially many parents do not support us and always say no to be an art major and don't be an artist, you will be poor and have a tough life, which is always true. I will sell down, I don't lie. You graduate with no job waiting for you. In engineering, you graduate with a job waiting for you, or computer science. In we have a lot of those, right? But at the same time, we have to believe you love what you do. You do waiting on table, which I did, babysitting, what I did, working a framing job, I did. I'm after something later on. I wish I'm glad I had the opportunity, and some of them still have not got it. So, but just keep chasing, you have to really have to sacrifice also. I mean, I don't have much weekends. I mean, I work on weekends so that I work. If you work 40 hours a week, where's your time left to make art? It's 3 p.m. Yeah.
I remember you saying to your wife, who you celebrated, I think, for 40 years being together, that you owed her 40 years of weekends. Is that right?
You still own that. I don't know whether I can make up that Malone soon. I tried to. The other day I was trying to work on, Father's Day to be free. I was loading the maze, and this Sunday I'm painting one of the pieces downtown, one of these guys on 19th Street. This is my crew. The guy who owned the crane still here, 1968 to me, and we finished this project. This is the piece I will paint this Sunday. Repaint because you need maintenance, because this is a different wood. This is my free current student, just graduate, who also won an ISC award, and then just graduated the same year before, about these last 3 years. This is a piece right now in 19th Street and L Street, between L and M. Those are sculpture there for you to enjoy. So
beautiful. Yeah, the Golden Triangle Bid, I think, commissioned these. Is that
right?
correct?
And this is for the theme of the rain gardens. The idea is to turn dirty street water into clean water after the filtration by the garden and the trees. My sculpture serves as a symbolic kind of idea or vessel, bringing water come from the sky to the earth, down back to the water clean. And I'm glad to be part of that message. And thank them for bringing me on and commissioning me to do the work. And this is installed during pandemic time. There was nobody in the street. I feel so special. I was even more special than the president of the United States that have the whole street closed off. Just kidding, but it was fun. So
somebody asked a question, actually, I think it was about the piece you did for us, Ridge, but you could apply it here. How do you know when a piece is done? How do you know when you've hit the final form for one of your pieces?
Well, it depends. If it is a commission, I have to finish it with the drawing as well as the model. Remember when I present the model to your office, the scale model was exactly like the final product.
Right.
Nobody likes surprises for commission. You don't like say, well, can I add another 3 layers? No, you cannot. But for indoor work, as I show you, I can do anything I want. When I see, there's no time clock on it, Angela. It's just like, it feels right. Like when I paint a painting, they drop the brush. I don't want any other, one more stroke on it. Same thing with my work. If I like the way the form is supposed to be 6 inches, whatever that might be, it will finish at 6. So I don't know whether to answer the question. Is judging your eye and judging your feeling for personal work. And that's what one of the hardest thing to teach in the classroom is, Professor, when do we stop? Well, you say I will stop at a different time than they do. So I said to them is, I can only give you my opinion if this piece is mine, but you have to make the decision on your own because I will not sign the name on your piece. You will sign the name. You need to decide when to stop. But I would advise you step into your shoes or drive with you in your car. Maybe Martin, you should stop now. This is so powerful. Don't add a stroke or add a block, add a welding or anything to it. And that's what we serve as advisor. We are not really making their art. We are telling them, maybe this is time to, this is a complete piece, you know. So my work has been, but I do have situation where I change my mind, which is allowed, not with commission. Personal, you can change it, cut it in half and do it again, or destroy it.
Beautiful.
So one last moment, I'll take 1 minute. This is maquette, which is labor intensive for a piece there for Cricket Museum back in 2009, and now have exhibition about the maquettes. The show called Objects from the Studio, along with all the other artists who are showing their outdoor sculpture on the ground Creeker Museum in DC. And then they show the indoor pieces, which is the maquettes inside the museum. So, and this is the piece in the Creeker. I was so honored to be next to a famous artist on my left called George Rickey,
Yes.
which is the Kinect sculpture. When I studied him, when I was a student back in college in California. So to end, this is a guy also I admired for years. If everybody do not know him, Angela, you know him, right?
One of my favorites, Martin Purrier. I had the privilege of meeting him once, actually, and he's just a lovely, lovely person. It doesn't surprise me that he hasn't been an influence for you.
Yes, he was inspiring me when he had a show in Herson. And there was no invitation. He walked into my classroom 2018 and sharing with me, he is doing a piece for the Venus Biennial representing United States. I think I was so glad to hear that. And I told him I would go to Venice and see his piece. And I did in 2019 in the fall semester when I had a little off time. So Martin, nice seeing you again. And many of you might not know, he was a faculty member from 1978, 79 around time in the same department where I'm teaching now. But he was teaching printmaking at that time. So just a little bit history there, just that you know.
Wonderful. Well, tell us a little bit also about what's next, because I know one of the things I know about you is you never stop. You're like the Energizer Bunny. You're always moving. You always got something coming up. So tell us, you were telling me a little bit about something coming up that you're actually taking your family to help you with.
Yeah, I'm flying to California next Tuesday I was invited to be a lead artist for Silicon Valley Outdoor Sculpture Park Fair. They invite me to build a piece on site in a place called Menlo College near Facebook area in Silicon Valley near the site is Menlo College, and I will finish the piece about 3 weeks. And I brought my daughters and my wife and traveling and seeing my family as well. And they will help me my daughter helped me to build, and my wife will help me to paint as well. So
Phenomenal.
we cannot, sometimes I bring my student to overseas. I brought my student helper assistant to Suriname as well, Chicago, to finish project because they are lovely to work with. And a little bit difficult for family sometimes, but I think, it all worked out. And I cannot do it all. And thank you again to all who have helped me in the audience, who are part of my success. It is your success as well. Really, from my heart, it is your success as well. We all share the plate. Thank you.
You also said something really charming when I was in your the Maze of Knowledge. You talked about numbers a lot. And so you talked about the number of people it took to help and the number of days and the number of trucks. Yeah. But you talked about the number of pieces of wood that make up that project and what it corresponds to. Do you remember? It is
also the same number of students I had taught over the last 30 some years.
Which you anticipate to be about how many?
It's about, if you have, not exact by count because it will go nuts. Halfway through, you will give up. About 2,250.
Pieces, and then
Yeah.
about that many students. So about that many pieces of wood in Maze of Knowledge, and then
Right.
about that many students.
Yeah, by the way, I have an index card of all the students who fill out a card when they take my class. I have all of them the last 25, 30 years. I have all the images of their work they have done in my class.
Incredible.
I record them in slides. I also record them in digital image. So I have all their record.
Incredible. Well, this has been wonderful. What else do we need to know in our final minutes? About you, Foon. What else is
any question? I'll be like to take any Q&A if anybody have any questions.
There was one question which interested me, which we didn't really touch on this idea of diseased wood. So, you talked about using recycled wood, but have you ever worked with a diseased piece of wood and its particular properties?
What do you mean, diseased, the wood that came down?
Yeah, something that has that maybe it doesn't look like a normal tree. It's got some irregularity maybe to it. Maybe, I don't know if the texture is different or the color might be different. Have you, like when you turn bowls, you get all the different.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not so much into that, but all the trees I work with had irregularities, right? If you see the mushroom piece, the reason why it take me so long to make one layer is they all have curve and cuts and all that. I chose the section what I like it to turn and like it to have a curve, like have extra knots in it, especially, right? Those are, what I call, some people in the lumberyard will cut them all out. Those are the things I kept to be part of my piece. But I'm not so much into what the wood turners look for, those little, spouted area. I do, if you saw my show in Arlington,
Yes.
I kept those pieces for drawings.
Yep.
I saw those irregularities and what I call spouted wood that have little imperfection and disease or worm lines, I call. Some insect actually have a path like the lizard did to my maze on the floor. They actually have a worm line, and I kept those wood for drawing purposes. But to answer that question is, yeah, I use the tree, whatever I like, part of the tree that I like to use, but not so much into turning into a bowl.
Yeah, no, yeah, I got that. And actually, we're talking about the Fred Snyder Gallery show, which is also in Virginia Square, not too far from the piece that you did here for us. Is that show still up, the Fred Snyder show?
No, that's the exhibition have to finish one day early because I need to move the maze.
Yeah.
So I cut the show one day short so that I can start getting this maze sculpture in place in the National Building Museum. So, but it didn't lose that much time, but I had a lot of exposure as well already. Thank you for that.
Well, that makes sense. So you can't be everywhere all at once.
Right.
Well, it's really been a pleasure, Foon, chatting with you, and I'm just delighted and honored to be included. And thank you. I hope folks have learned more about your work, and I really do hope that everyone will go down and see the Maze of Knowledge before it closes Labor Day weekend.
Yes, that is correct. Yes. And wow, what a great image to end on with Foon and Martin Puryear and you, Angela, to sort of like round out this evening. Thank you so much. It's one of the pleasures I have working at the museum is to be able to personally meet folks like you and also share and educate the public with the work that you do. So thank you both very much. To our audience, this discussion was recorded and an edited version will be available within a few days on our website, where you can also find other programs. Don't forget to visit mbm.org for information about our next virtual program with muralist Lisa Marie Tallhammer on July 28th. Thank you, Foon. Thank you, Angela. And thank you, all of us. all of you for joining us tonight. Good night.